it takes a lot out of yourself you have to kind of step up and be like a better version of yourself to be a good leader. Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others, right? And when you have a good team, it takes so much stress off of your shoulders.
Welcome to the Iron Mind Podcast. I'm Josh Brumley, lawyer, author, professor, and now podcast host. Join me as I dive into conversations with entrepreneurs, artists, business owners, and other leaders shaping the world. This is the Iron Mind Podcast. Tyson, thank you so much, man, for being on the show. Love to have you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're practicing, everything people need to know on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Josh. So Tyson Terry, I'm a second-generation chiropractor. I'm practicing with my dad, and Puyallup Chiropractic Clinic is our business. So from, about teenage years, I got really into health and fitness when I started working at...
You look great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just grew up like a tall, skinny kid, and I was like, I need to put some muscle on, because you want to be attractive to girls and all that kind of stuff when you're younger. So
hell yeah.
I started getting into like working out and fitness, and when I was a teenager, I ate like Eggo waffles and like Otis Spunkmeyer cookies.
Love them.
And it wasn't giving me good skin or good energy or anything. So I got into I really got into supplements and learning how like nutrition affects me, and got into fitness and all that kind of, lit a fire and passion for health and fitness. And I never did want to be a chiropractor growing up initially, even though I liked that my dad was one, right? It always provided a sense of like security or comfort in my health, just having that in the family, because I thought that's unoriginal. I don't want to just copy my dad, right? I wanted to be I knew I wanted to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. But when it came down to I was about 21 or something, and I was dating the girlfriend, now wife at the time. She was like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" 'Cause she's like, she's looking at me like,
she's
"What do you?"
Realist. She was like, "Come on, get it together. I need to know if you're the bump in the road or the long term guy here." Yeah,
she was like, "Is this a guy that I want to attach to, or peace out?" Right? And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I'll just be a business owner, I guess." And she's like, "That's not solid."
She was like,
she's like, "No, that's not good." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was younger than me at the time too, but she just somehow just had this like, I had this like awakening moment where I was like, oh, okay, so I got to go job shadow, I guess. I got to figure this out. I thought 21, when you're young, you're just always living with the fantasy goggles of potential. I could do anything, right? But eventually you do have to choose, right? You can't just forever just live in this fantasy world. So I went out and I thought, well, maybe I'll be a personal trainer. I like fitness. And then I think I was at a family gathering one time, and my aunt was like, "God, come on, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to make much money as a personal trainer." I was like, I could do it. I could be a personal trainer for celebrities, right? Kind of like pie in the sky. And then, but then I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a physical therapist. So I job shadowed a couple physical therapists, and it was really boring. Like I was watching people do like these most mundane exercises,
stretches,
what, like they're rehabbing like one rotator cuff muscle, like bouncing something against trampoline. I'm like, dude, my soul would die here. I could not do this. And then one of the physical therapist I was job shadowing was like, "Well, what does your dad do?" I was, "Oh, he's a chiropractor." And she's like, "Why don't you just do that? It's more lucrative." And I was like, I don't know. I'll job shadow him. And because it just never occurred to me just to follow in your dad's footsteps, right? That just seems so unoriginal. Yeah, at least I thought at the time. So then I job shadowed my dad a little bit and was realizing this could be a great career potential. And I could still incorporate the health and nutrition aspects of what was one of my passions. Yeah, exactly. I could still incorporate exercise and fitness into people's lives, which I do all the time. And I can also incorporate, the shorter visit times and being able to see more people. It's not boring. It's fast paced. I really love it. And then, so long story short, changed my trajectory, got into chiropractic school, loved chiropractic school before I was in business school. And I took an accounting class, and my soul just was like, that's where my soul was like dying. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Loved chiropractic school. I thought it was a blast. Still miss it. And interned for a guy who like only did car accident victim rehab. Like he only took car accident cases. He's like, this is where it's at, man. So, and I just fell in love with rehabbing car accident people after that. So I knew I wanted to specialize in car accident rehab out the gate.
Was that what your dad did, or he was kind of just like a...
He did some of that. He's just a mixed bag. I also got my master's degree in exercise and sports science because at the chiropractic school at the time, I could add just like one more quarter and I could take all these extra classes and get a master's degree in exercise and sports science. So I did that too. It was just a great opportunity at the time. But when I graduated, I took an emphasis in whiplash rehab. I took some extra classes. There's a guy named Arthur Croft that had this whole setup where you could do all these extra classes to learn about the biomechanics and rehab of whiplash. And so I started focusing on that, and I've been doing. I still do a mixed bag. I see general people, and I've focused on whiplash rehab as well. And joined my dad in practice as an independent contractor. 8 years later, we ended up I said, listen, I'm either gonna go start my own business, or we can merge and we can be partners. We became partners after that. So now I'm a co-owner of Puyallup Chiropractic Clinic. Been out in the field for 10 years. In the city of Puyallup. All right. Practicing with my dad. It was just pretty cool.
And has that been mostly a great thing, or have there been situations that maybe you're like, hey, I don't always recommend the idea of going into practice with family? Like, is there a component that, or do you guys have a very different relationship at work than outside of work?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of risky, because I don't think family and business always mix. But growing up, we were both a little bit similar, kind of stubborn-headed, right? Like we kind of clashed a little bit.
Like most people do with their parents when they're growing up, sure.
Yeah, like most people. And even though I knew it was kind of a risk, like he also was offering me the best deal as far as, payouts for being an independent contractor. Same deal he offered other chiropractors at the time, but there was a few other people before me that just didn't make it with him. So yeah, there was a little bit of risk. And like with family, you can clash a little bit sometimes, but ever since merging as partners and being 50-50, and he's not hyper controlling either. So I've earned his trust and he's earned my trust, and we just really have a lot of trust in each other. Yeah. No one's trying to screw over each other. Like we just like one of us picks up the ball where the other person leaves off. It's like, it's really actually pretty cool to actually now have a close relationship with my dad on a professional level. It's almost like being brothers. Yeah. 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 Dude, that's really great. Yeah. It's really cool.
I can't imagine working with my, family members in what I do. In the early years of my practice, I did have a couple of sisters who worked with me, but they chose to leave, and they're much happier now not having me as a boss. So shout out to my sisters getting out while they could.
That's awesome.
If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what words would you choose?
3 words, fun-loving, discipline, and third word, I don't know, relationship-oriented, shredded. Shredded.
That's the third word. The third word is shredded. What about a funny or weird thing that's happened at your chiropractic clinic? Do you have any stories of things that like this you never thought would happen? Someone get adjusted and then they're like, oh no, I threw up. Like anything weird like that ever happen at your clinic?
Oh man, funny or weird things that happened at I feel like there's something every month that's just different. So I don't know. Nothing really comes to mind right now. You have the occasional like someone farts on you when you adjust them, or stuff like that, or like.
Are they embarrassed, or are they do you just pretend like it didn't happen? Like, what do you do?
Both, always, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like sometimes they're more. If it's a girl, she's like mortified. If it's a dude, he's like, oh, whatever.
Do you say anything, or do you wait for them to say anything and you just pretend you didn't hear it?
I'll pretend like I didn't hear it, or like they'll be like, "Oh, sorry." I'm like, "Oh, it's all right. Everybody farts when they get adjusted."
Wow. So there you go. You're just a nice guy. Just pretending like you didn't hear it. That's great.
Yeah, it's no big deal, man.
If you had to swap careers for a day, what career would you choose and why?
Funny enough, I would love to be a lawyer too, because I've always been like into debate or it's very mentally stimulating, right?
Yeah.
So like growing up, my parents even thought I might be a lawyer because I was so just sharp-witted with debating, and like not like they could not win an argument against me, and they hated it. But then they also were like, okay, whatever.
It's a skill set that we're proud of him for having, just not when he uses it against us.
Yeah. So I mean, I could be a lawyer. A firefighter would also be a badass career. I almost decided to go for apply for the firefighter academy, and I was like, I wonder if I could be a chiropractor and a firefighter. But you'd have to go through academy, and that's like 3 months where you can't see it. Yeah, so I'm like, I'm not going to sink my career over that. But yeah, that would be a pretty wicked career. What about yourself?
Damn, I have never had a job before being a lawyer, specifically a lawyer in personal injury, because I've done a lot of other areas of law. I've done family law, criminal defense, business litigation. I was a public defender for a long time. And while I liked a lot about those areas of law, there were always things that I didn't like. And when I became a full-time personal injury attorney, it was the first time, and I own the business too. So there's a component of like pride of like having my name on these things and being really proud of the people that I work with and the people that I hire and build up. There's that aspect of it. But every single morning I'm excited. When I get in the car, I wish I could get to the office faster.
Really?
Like every single morning and every weekend I'm in the office, not because I have to be, but because I want to be. And I just truly don't think that there's another career that I'd be more excited to do. I just don't think it exists. I've done so many different things.
Didn't you even used to be in a band?
Yeah. I played music in some bands, and in law school I played music in Florida, and I ran live music venues, and man, I worked at Fred Meyer in like every different area of Fred Meyer, learned about apparel, learned about produce, learned about electronics, learned about the home department, cashiered, everything. Worked in the jewelry stores that are associated with Fred Meyer, man. Worked for the Social Security Administration, worked for just like a big healthcare company. I was their director of operations at one point.
How old are you? Are you 50? Like how do you all this experience?
I've always had like 3 jobs at once.
Oh, really?
And there were always things that I was like doing on the side, you know?
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't because I needed to. It was because I was just like bored when I would get off of work, and I didn't want to just sit at home and play video games. You know, that just never really, that didn't do anything for my mental. And so I was like, well, how can I be making more money when I'm not at the 9 to 5?
Yeah.
And this career, there's no shortage of work. There's no shortage of cases. There's no shortage of going to get money. You just have to do the work to get the money. And being the business owner and having the flexibility of like what cases I want, what cases I don't want, that's a very powerful thing. But like, I can't imagine a job that I'd enjoy more than this.
Yeah. I mean, that's the opportunities abound. You don't have to have a side hustle. It's not like someone's cutting you like a 9 to 5 check and you got to go find your side hustle. It's just like however many cases you want to take on, how many people you want to hire, the sky's the limit. And
man, we're just in this crazy growth mode still where I think at this point right now today, as we're sitting here, there are 40 employees of Brumley Law Firm.
When did you start Brumley Law?
2015.
So you're going on like 10 years. Okay. So you and I are probably about the same amount of time out because I've been out.
Practice?
Yeah. I've been out 10 years as well.
Oh, man.
Dude, 40. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's some fast growth.
It's a lot of, I don't think I had gray hair when I started, and I don't think I would have gray hair if I wasn't an entrepreneur. But I think that with the gray hair comes wisdom, man, and you learn from doing things. And a lot of people are scared to take that step of starting their own business or doing something that they're really passionate about because they have the safety net of that 9 to 5.
It's that fear of failure, right?
Yeah. Really.
There's a Bible verse that says gray hair is the crown of wisdom. Is like it's an honor to have it.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Shout out to my gray hair then.
Cheers to your gray hair. Do you feel like your time and being in a band and putting yourself out there as far as showmanship has helped you be able to put yourself on billboards and put yourself on like the 20 vehicles out there that you see and like have the confidence to put yourself out there as a figure?
I don't. I think that was something that I was always really like uncomfortable with, putting my face on everything. But I have like a very solid marketing team, and they're like, dude, just lean into it. Yeah. You know, that's what your face looks like. It's you're putting it on every day. You might as well put it on the billboards. But for me, it was playing live music, playing in front of people, being on a stage. I was a singer of some bands, and there was a lot of discussion between songs while you're on stage, like talking about why you would write a song about whatever you wrote a song about. In punk music in Tacoma, that's like a really big part of writing music, is like people want to know what you're passionate about. If your beliefs align with their beliefs, those are, it's not just like, hey, this song kicks ass, I'm just going to put whatever lyrics in it. You have to have some thought behind what your art is. And so being on stage and specifically like singing in a band was like an opportunity for me for the first time to have all this attention on every word I say. And I loved it. And I had no idea that was going to be the same feeling I got from being in court. But it was the exact same feeling.
It's a performance. Yeah, every word counts.
Yeah, everything you say matters, and how you say it, the intonation, the passion behind what you say. And when I got to law school, I didn't know lawyers. I had no like background in the legal industry. I didn't know if I was gonna like be making the biggest mistake of my life, flying to Florida and moving my entire life there for 3 years of law school. But after my first year and joining the mock trial team and the moot court debate team and traveling with those teams to other states to like battle other law schools for prestigious like competition and awards, it was very clear that this was something I was going to enjoy doing. And then it was just a matter of like, how do I become good at it? Because law school teaches you how to pass the bar. It doesn't teach you how to be a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
And so after passing the bar, you're like, okay, now I've got the license. How do I make sure I can use it and make money using it and not lose it from doing something stupid and hurting someone?
Right.
So that was the first step. And so I just tried to get as much experience as I could in any area I could, and use my network to build my brand to be, hey, I might not know what you need help with, but I'm a lawyer in your community that's accessible. So use me. And if I can't help you, I'll at least know resources that are available to you. So there were a lot of people in the like punk and music industry that just didn't know lawyers and didn't have access to a lawyer that they could just shoot a text message off to. And I really leaned into that and was like, hey, I'm always going to be accessible to anyone. And I still am. I get a lot of...
I noticed that you made your personal brand around, like, even your Instagram says, I help my friends sue their enemies, basically. So I noticed you kind of made your personal brand around helping people that maybe otherwise didn't have accessibility to lawyers, and making yourself more accessible to people that may have not even thought about it that way. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah. I think a lot of the lawyers that I know really enjoy having a work-life balance, and props to them. But I really enjoy a work balance. I'm obsessed with what I do every single day. I'm like, if there's not something like a deadline that I'm working on or something, I'm just like gonna read some cases and just try to learn something I didn't know yesterday. And there is absolutely no shortage of shit to read about what I do. And there are tons of lawyers that have a lot of years more of experience doing exactly what I do. And the way to be successful on the cases I have against those people is to work harder. I have to be working harder than they were willing to work.
Well, years experience doesn't always equal minutes of experience, right?
Yeah. I also think, because I have this background of, being a live music performing person, and then being a public defender and family law attorney, where literally I would be in, I think my high score in one day was 6 different cities' courtrooms.
Oh, wow.
In one day before COVID, when we didn't have Zoom court.
I was pre-Zoom.
Yeah, pre-Zoom. Spent a lot of time fighting my own speeding tickets because I was constantly driving like a psychopath on the roads. But now we have Zoom, so I don't have to worry about that. And now I don't do any other areas of law. But being in court on a regular basis made me very comfortable being in court. And people have a level of nervousness for the like prestige and the the stage, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, public speaking is like a bigger fear than death for
That's
like
the number
majority
one fear,
of people. They just can't, like, oh my God, I would hate to.
People would rather be the body in the coffin than
Yeah.
the person speaking at the eulogy. That blows me away because I'm so passionate about it and I enjoy it so much that I can't think of anything worse than death, but whatever. I guess other people are. But what I think sets me apart from these very experienced, older, wiser lawyers is they get nervous with the public speaking component. And even if they know what they need to say, they can't get it out maybe, or they're uncomfortable getting it out, or I don't know. It takes a special type of person to be willing to be like a trial attorney.
Well, if you're delivering a message unconfident, that the jury doesn't know that you're unconfident because you hate public speaking. They just know you're unconfident, so they're just not going to believe your message as much, right?
You lose credibility.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So that's a really big, I think, we call it our unique value propositions here at Brumley Law Firm. We have right now today, as we sit here, 5 attorneys, and those 5 attorneys are all incredible public speakers, very intellectual people who are equally as passionate as I am about doing a wonderful job for our clients. And that's something that took a long time to build, but I'm very proud and proud to have them as colleagues, man.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Well, damn, this started turning into an interview about me, but I want to talk about you. Let's
go back and forth. Okay, put the spotlight back on me.
Okay,
on me
okay.
Then.
What's a major challenge you've faced in running your own practice, and how have you overcome it?
A major challenge I've faced running my own practice is leadership. I didn't really know much about leadership, right? I grew up in a family of 6 kids. I was the second oldest, but I didn't really put myself in a ton of leadership opportunities growing up. And then all of a sudden I'm, a business owner. I'm in charge of hiring and maintaining relationships with employees in a way that's, friendly, but you're still your boss. You're trying to maintain that balance between being their friend versus being their boss, being a good leader.
It's a hard line to walk, man.
Yeah. So, leadership is, it takes a lot out of yourself you have to kind of step up and be like a better version of yourself to be a good leader. Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others, right? And so, like learning how to show up every day as like your best self. Like in school is easy. Like you could show up to class with half of your energy. You could be hungover.
People mostly are.
Yeah, you could, and you can still pass your test. It's easy. You have to try to go to bed on time, and when you're in practice and you're seeing 30 or 40 people a day, and you're leading a team, and you have to like really be good with your self-care routine. And so I've had to get really good at deciding to have a good attitude every day. I can't I can't let like my moods get the best of me if I'm in a bad mood that day, let's say, or didn't get enough sleep. I've had to decide to just have a good attitude no matter what. And like a couple years ago, I just made a promise to myself, I'm gonna have like an impeccable attitude that year no matter what, and I did. And it's forced me to grow in ways where I've got more control over myself, my attitude, my self-care, because you can't show up half-assed if you're the leader of a team and you're at practice.
Yeah. Do you think gratitude plays a big part in your leadership? Like, do you express gratitude to your employees and your team?
Yeah, and it should. And like, that's something I'm trying to make sure I'm good at, right? Getting better at too, is like telling them that I'm grateful for them and why I'm grateful for them, not just a generalistic thing, but like when you have a good team, it takes so much stress off of your shoulders. Because, for example, like we added laser therapy, like class 4 laser therapy, and I was going back and forth adjusting and then doing laser therapy, and I hire someone good and they're doing the laser therapy for me. And I'm like, oh man, this is so much easier. I hire a good office manager and they're filling out forms I normally have to fill out. And it's like, it just makes things so much easier when you have such a good team.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely gratitude is a big part of that. And if people don't think that you're grateful for them, they're going to go find somewhere where they are appreciated,
Yeah. Financially or just the other ways, right?
Right, yeah.
The verbal thank you goes a long way.
Both.
And that's really important. I think that more entrepreneurs could pay attention to how they treat subordinates or employees. And I think sometimes, even for me, that was something that I really had to make a conscious decision to be vocal about. Not because I wasn't thankful, but because I'm so focused on the next problem. I'm like, you've got this, great. And I'm on the way out the door to the next problem.
Yeah.
And I think when people work with you long enough, they realize that that is not a indication that I'm not thankful, but it was the people who didn't know my personality, didn't know me very well. It would come off maybe as like, I didn't care. I only cared about work, and I was just on to the next thing. And when things were, exploding and I had to be in 6 courts and one of the courts wasn't even on my calendar that day because the receptionist messed something up, that was a very hard time for me to spend time one-on-one building those relationships with staff. But now that I'm not in 6 courts all in a day, and I have time to develop those interpersonal professional relationships with each staff person and say like, hey, the things that you do here are so important to what we're building, and let me talk to you about the vision and how you play a role in that vision. And that's led to a lot more A players sticking around and the B and C players kind of finding other places to work on their own.
Yeah.
And that's really important, man. Who you have on that team has to be high level, but they also have to feel intrinsically rewarded for the work that they do. And that's not something everyone can do in a job where like they're doing payroll, right?
Right.
But if they see the vision and they're happy about their work and they're happy about who their coworkers and boss and the leadership is there, and they see a bigger vision than just, I have to sit here in this desk for the next 40 years until I die.
Well, it's like you're kind of the captain of a ship. Like if you're the captain of a pirate ship or something, and there's a balance between like, this is my ship, and I'm sorry if you're not gonna like
row the boat in this direction.
If you're not gonna go along with it, you're gonna have to walk the plank. And then there's also like a balance of treating them like that versus like they have to know who's in charge, but you also have to make sure that you're treating them, fair as well, and you're not like being like a tyrant or whatever. Like there's a fine line, like you don't want to be walked on by people that it's not their company. Yeah. And you're the leader. You're bringing it into a direction, but you also have to rely on them at the same time.
Yeah. Really tough, but really important to individually manage what that balance looks like. I think it's different for different personalities.
For
too.
Sure. Yeah.
If you could have lunch with any historical figure, who would you have lunch with and why? Oh,
you're not going to ask me who I would fight, like on Fight Club.
Now that's the next one. That's the next one.
I would fight Gandhi. Historical figure. Let's see. Let me think about this one. They can't be alive today, right? Elon Musk seems like an interesting guy, but he'll be historical eventually. Did you know Elon Musk thinks that we're most likely in a simulation?
I didn't know that.
He thinks there's a 99.9% chance that we're living in a simulation.
So everything he's doing with regard to the government, he says it doesn't matter because this is just a simulation.
I think that's part of his not give a fuck attitude. Like,
wow.
You see his kid next to him on like when he's like on stage and stuff. He just really seems like he doesn't give a fuck. But if you ever wore those VR goggles, you have?
Yeah.
You probably played a game in them and then gotten out and you feel like you're still in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like that.
This is the Matrix.
This is the Matrix.
Damn it.
God, who is a historical figure I'd want to have? I know there's probably somebody who. Now you tell me first while I'm thinking about mine.
I guess I should have thought about that before. No one's ever asked me.
Well,
I've asked this question like 15 times.
You're just gonna point the gun at me.
I never prepare for my own interview on these podcasts. Shit.
Well, you didn't tell me you were gonna have this question for me either.
Damn it, you're right. Okay, well, I think anyone on the Supreme Court, they got there for a reason, man. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is an incredible figure in human history. And she was a Supreme Court justice that there's a really remarkable documentary about her, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, a wonderful attorney, judge, and Supreme Court justice that really did a lot of outspoken things. And that's something that makes me excited about being a part of the legal profession. I think it's on the radar down the road to see like how far what I learn can take me in terms of helping other people in really major ways. Like car accident victims deserve help, but at a certain point, I do see myself working on cases like against major corporations that are doing things that are so blatantly wrong, but they have so much money that they've been able to get away with it for so long.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. And, you know, people are talking a lot about Tesla fires and how when a Tesla catches on fire, you can't put out the fire. It's a chemical fire.
Oh, it's a battery going, dude.
Yeah. And these batteries can shoot out like bullets and damage surrounding vehicles or hurt people. The smoke can hurt firefighters and do all sorts of different things. And I think that there's a lot of discussion about that, or, you know, just products liability issues in general. That's very similar to what I'm doing as far as like advocating for people against major corporations who, Monsanto, for example, is a very famous example, a Seattle-based company that's like just famously lied about chemicals that they knew were killing people.
Wait, is Monsanto Seattle-based?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know they're like
they've been
terrible.
sued like a bunch of times for the terrible things that they're doing, and those lawsuits are incredible to watch footage from, which anyone can do, and see the attorneys in action, and those are the people that I strive to be.
That's cool.
All right, that's my answer. Now you got to answer.
All right, Benjamin Franklin. He seems like an interesting dude. He seems like a wild character.
I feel like the clothes that he wore would be a really good discussion. Like, dude, I mean, maybe it was the times, but he was a larger guy, and he was wearing those tiny little pants.
He was pretty flamboyant. He was like sleeping around, and he would like, you know, isn't Benjamin
He had
Franklin?
the like bald head, but the long in the back mullet style, like a skullet.
Yeah.
But
dude, he was wild, man.
He's Ben Franklin. Like I gotta hang out with this guy.
Yeah, he just seems like one of the most interesting dudes to talk to on a personal level.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great answer. Well, before we go, point at the camera. Give me a car crash. Call Josh.
Car crash. Call Josh. He's your man.
All right, and then in closing, what is a like slogan, motivational motto? Don't half-ass anything, full-ass everything style of quote that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Oh, moderation in all things.
Moderation in all things. Great words of wisdom. Thank you very much, Tyson, for being on the show.
Thanks, Josh.